apart: Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Utah. After the war, which was inspired by the doctrine of manifest destiny, Mexico was left with roughly half of its territory intact. Gone were all of the states just mentioned. Though the American government followed through on its promise to pay $15 million, it never honored its commitment to extend citizenship to those Mexicans stuck on the wrong side of the border when it crossed them. Nor did it, the American government, honor their property, their rights, or their culture. Immigrants for whom the old country was Europe had a rough start, too. Benjamin Franklin had no use for German immigrants. The Irish faced religious and ethnic discrimination, as did the Italians. Of course, Jews faced racial discrimination on account of how they were treated in much of Europe as an inferior and dangerous race. However, over time, each of these groups worked hard to become white. Eventually, each would come to be accepted as equals in American society. For non-European immigrants and their descendants, things haven't changed much. Of course, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, the law that removed quota-based immigration for all groups, flung open the doors to American citizenship. That said, consider how the Latinx community, all presumed illegals, continues to suffer from discrimination. As recently as 2010, Arizona passed a law that permitted law enforcement to ask suspected immigrants for proof that they were in the United States legally. Let's not forget the spate of anti-Asian violence against legal residents that continues to sweep the country. What accounts for such different treatment? Why were European immigrants eventually accepted and Latinx and Asian immigrants not? Why do the latter groups continue to suffer? The answer is simple. It's all tied to race and racism. For lack of a more suitable term, European immigrants can pass as white. Immigrants from elsewhere cannot. Whiteness is the cultural baseline. Everything else is considered the cultural other. In A New History of Immigration, Backhaus recovers the humanity of immigrants. She does so in part by preferring the term global majority to the more oft-used aliens to refer to groups of people, non-whites, who leave their country of birth hoping to make a life elsewhere. Referring to this population as aliens, Backhaus suggests, emphasizes difference, reinforcing the sense of otherness they feel. By identifying this group as part of the global majority, she makes clear that, in fact, non-whites aren't alien at all. They're part of the majority. Another way in which Backhaus recovers the humanity of immigrants is to draw on her own history. The book opens with her personal experience as a descendant of immigrants and closes by taking a look back at her ancestry. Her family history dates back to 1917, with her maternal grandfather's arrival in the United States from India. He eventually settled in Northern California and started a family with another immigrant from India. In fact, Backhaus is able to trace her family's history in the United States to immigration legislation mentioned earlier. Again, if the current political climate is any indication, immigration will continue to be a source of division in the United States for the foreseeable future. This book is indispensable in that it adds layers of much-needed reality to the myth of American immigration. For European immigrants, the myth becomes reality. However, if one's national origins lie beyond Europe, the myth is a lie. Prologue: The Conversation. It's a conversation that I've had many times since high school, usually with someone whom I've just met. The conversation seems, on one hand, well-meaning and innocuous. And since those early days, I always feel an acute sting while having it. The conversation goes something like this. The person whom I've just met will make small talk.